Right, there was a question. Oh, guys, before I forget, Mufti Maravia. All right. So this is in the house, people. I believe he's still online, unless he's gone offline now. But I've been in touch with Mufti Maravia, if I'm pronouncing it correctly. He's from Preston, I believe. He's on Facebook. Except I don't think he has the title Mufti on Facebook, but he is a Mufti. He just has his name, Uthman. Now, he's invoked Kashif, Ustad Kashif. People, Sheikh Kashif is in the house. Ahlan wa sahlan, Sheikh. Tasharrafna, tasharrafna. Right, so I was speaking to Mufti Uthman Maravia, and he's very involved in the whole organ donation. To donate organs, okay? This is not a euphemism, people, okay? You need to be thinking straight. Guys, think straight, okay? This is not your... This isn't for an excuse for you guys to be up to some naughty. This is organ donation, okay? Right, so the question is that... How do organ donations work? And I'm actually so overwhelmed by having learned what the process was, as in an overview. I was so surprised and shocked at my own ignorance on this matter. So just as a summary, to tell you guys that I was totally unaware. This is me, right? I was totally unaware. This is what I thought, people. I thought that when... Let's say you donate your organs. This is the Jahil me now. Mufti, this is organ donation, cuz. Right, so I thought once you donate your organ, let's say you've kidneys or whatever, they take them away. And let's say they can take them successfully. Like I thought, fine, once you're dead, they take your organs so long as they're healthy. So with the condition they're healthy, so they take your, I don't know, lungs or let's say kidneys or whatever it is, liver, and what they will do is they will kind of put them, store them, chemically preserve them. You know, all the freezing, and this is in my mind. All this kind of like freezing, I don't know, they've got nitrogen over it, got in this expensive kind of this equipment, and they've preserved them. And along comes a person who has a need, and they say, well, yep, in the organ resources, we've got a liver or a kidney that matches that, and it gets arranged. But then I realized I'm an utter jahil. I've got no idea that that's totally how it does not work. Okay, so people, that's how not to organ donate. Okay, so the actual method is you see, and it's so shocking to learn that first of all, the organs that they take from you, yes, they have to be sound, but first of all it depends on your death. Your death must take place whilst they've got you hopefully either within the hospital or hooked up to things that can actually preserve. Because if your heart stops beating and stops sending blood to the organs, within, I've heard, like just 5 minutes or so, the organs become useless. This is most of the organs. So this is the first part that I was quite shocked to learn about. Secondly, I was shocked to learn that once they do remove the organ, they must implant it, transplant it within 6 hours, generally speaking. Otherwise, the organ becomes useless. So you just have a very short window, small window, to kind of do the, you know, have you watched that Bollywood clip with the viral one where he's taking that heart to the hospital and the villains are shooting him and he's like dodging the bullets and he's beating up all these villains along the way, and then when he's totally stuck, he just throws the heart and it goes flying and it goes, smashes through the window and it lands inside and the heart starts beating. Allah, Allah. If anybody could do it, Bollywood could do it. So now, yep, so that thing, there's Uthman on this, but GM Uthman, that's called circulatory death. So you only have a very short window in which they can transplant the organ. So they have to take it out. Now, depending on where the person that needs it, let's say it's whatever it is, they're going to take out the heart or whatever it is, the other person, he could be on the other side of the country that needs it. And not all hospital, I think there's only a very few, I think that there was less than, I think just a handful of hospitals in the entire country that specialize in organ transplants. So they have to get both the organ and the patient to the hospital in time within that window to make the transplant. In addition to other checks, like there has to be in certain things a genetic match, like let's say it's a kidney, it has to genetically match, or other things have to match the kind of recipient as well. Considering all of that, you think, how on earth do they manage even a single organ transplant? Because you think, well, if a person, because most people, first of all, don't die. I'm assuming, I could be wrong, but I'm assuming that most deaths do not actually happen like just in the hospital with healthy functioning organs. I'm assuming most deaths are not like that. Once again, I could be wrong. But so I would assume people just die, like whether they're out or whatever's happened, or a heart attack or an accident, or or whatever it is. So I'm assuming most people are not on a hospital bed all chained up to, or, all kind of tubed up and then die. I'm assuming, so that eliminates a huge portion. Then the death must be like brainstem death, and not like your heart can't just stop beating, because, or if it does, the machines must keep the organs healthy. So that is another wow. And then those that do die like that, they have to be organ donors. And then the recipient they have to do the transplant within 6 hours. You think, well, that narrows the whole scope down so much that it's a miracle that organ transplant successfully takes place, organ donation. And then people, that which does happen is usually, like let's say in the UK, is the non-Muslim community. It's generally just non-Muslims that are doing the organ donation. So because most Muslims in this country are ethnically not English or not white, so we're either South Asian, or they might be Arab, Middle Eastern, or North African, or African. So most of these organs that are, let's say, that do successfully make it, they're not a good match, or they're not a match at all for most Muslims. So we need to so I think that things that Mufti Uthman is doing in creating an awareness on organ donation, and Muslims must, and they should really be donating their organs, okay? So you don't need to think that they just take your organs out if just because you've said, yes, I will donate, and you die. They don't just take everything. They only take it out if there's a successful match and a recipient that they can get it to. So it's not like, all right, lads, quickly pull everything out of his body. It's not quite like that. So I think this is something that must be taken seriously. I was glad to hear that, as Mufti Uthman was telling me, that from next year they're rolling out the law in England that everybody by default will be a donator. Like you would be on the register to donate your organs if applicable, and you have the option to opt out if you want, because right now it's the other way around, like nobody's on the register unless you opt in. But then from next year, I hear that 2020 they're rolling out the law that everybody's automatically opted in, but you have the right to opt out. I just hope I hope the Mulvis don't just start misleading people and misfeeding them information that this is haram. It is not haram. The person is actually doing one of the greatest acts of humanity. They are actually potentially, because it's so difficult, like I said, to even find a recipient that could render a successful transplantation. But this person may potentially be saving a life. Okay. And as Allah says in the Quran, that وَمَنْ أَحْيَاهَا, who gives life is as though he has given life to the whole of humanity. And what could be a greater gift as you die to be able to give life to somebody else? I think that's an amazing kind of it's an amazing way to leave this dunya. You know, if you're gonna leave it anyway at some point, we're all gonna be like, the angel's here. It's like, yeah, you know, I was just on episode 11 and I just got one more I just got one more box set. What do you say? Right, so I think you could save, as Mufti Uthman has just typed, you could save up to 9 lives as you die potentially by the things that they could take out. So I think people definitely promote it, get involved, and if you hear anybody spewing hatred against these kind of things, please ignore them. It is not haram. That is a misunderstanding, that's all. There were many Muslim scholars that gave fatwas of the permissibility of this way back in the 60s. People like Mufti Muhammad al-Aziz Ju'ayyid, who was the Shaykh al-Islam of his time and the Grand Mufti of Tunis, and obviously the Mufti of the Malikiya. He has his whole article, which I've shared previously, it is on YouTube, saying why it was permissible back then. Now I believe it's a must. Cool, guys, so I hope that's